Welcome to 5 Minute Bible, your daily guide for your daily reading. Today's July the 20th, and we'll be looking at Hosea 1 through 7. Now, yesterday, Hezekiah reopened the temple, and we saw how he restored the Passover and sent messengers throughout the land of Judah and the remnant of Israel, calling the people to return to the Lord. Now, some mocked, but others humbled themselves and came. And today, we step slightly backward in the chronology of the text in order to understand why that invitation was necessary. And in that way, Hosea prophesied before the northern kingdom fell, during the reigns of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah in Judah, and Jeroboam II in Israel. Kings in that way showed us that Israel was falling to Assyria. But Hosea, on the other hand, tells us what that fall meant within the context of covenant. Israel had not merely lost a war, but she had betrayed the Lord like an adulterous wife abandoning her faithful husband. Hosea is going to pick up on those themes. And in that way, the book begins with the Lord commanding Hosea to marry Gomer, who is a wife of harlotry. And their marriage becomes a living symbol of the Lord's relationship with Israel. God had loved and provided for his people like a faithful husband, but Israel repeatedly ran into the arms of the Baals and the other nations like an idolatrous and whoring wife. And their three children actually bear the names of the judgment that God is bringing. For instance, Jezreel recalls the bloodshed staining Israel's royal house and announces its collapse. Lo-ruhamah means no compassion, and Lo-ammi means not my people. And together, these names announce the judgment that God is bringing. And yet, the judgment is interrupted by a promise, because in the future, those who are called not my people are going to again be called sons of the living God. And at some point in the distant future, Judah and Israel are going to be gathered together beneath a single leader, which is an astounding promise that would take hundreds of years to develop. Now, with that, chapter 2 presents the Lord's lawsuit against his unfaithful bride. And Israel credits all of her good things to the Baal, whether it be the grain or the wine or the oil or the silver or the gold. They're saying that instead of the Lord providing those things, it was the Baal. And God gets angry at this, and he's going to strip away those gifts that she used for idolatry, and he's going to block the road to her false lovers once and for all. But then comes a stunning reversal. The Lord also promises to lure her into the wilderness, to speak tenderly to her, to restore her vineyards, and to turn the valley of trouble back into the door of hope, and to betroth her to himself again forever in righteousness and justice and loving kindness and compassion and faithfulness. Now, in Hosea 3, Hosea purchases the adulterous woman back, dramatizing the Lord's determination to redeem his people. Israel will remain without a king, without a prince or sacrifice or sacred pillar, ephod, or household idols, and afterward the people will return and seek the Lord and David their king. Then chapters 4 through 7 expose Israel's corruption. There's no faithfulness. There's no covenant loyalty, no knowledge of God in the land. The priests profit from sin and idolatry, and political treacheries multiply. And Israel flutters either between Egypt and Assyria for protection, but refuses to return sincerely to the Lord. So as you read today, I want you to ask the following question. What does God's covenant love do when his people repeatedly betray him? Hosea 1 through 7 shows that divine love does not ignore adultery or pretend that treachery is somehow harmless. The Lord exposes it, disciplines, strips, and judges his unfaithful people, and yet his covenant purposes remain stronger than their rebellion. He will reclaim his wandering bride, and he will restore her through sovereign mercy. And in that way, the central tension in these chapters is between an unfaithful bride and a covenant husband, a faithful covenant husband. Israel's idolatry is not merely breaking the rules, it's spiritual adultery. The Lord delivers Israel from Egypt, enters a covenant with her, gave her the land, and supplied her grain and wine and oil and silver and gold. But Israel took those gifts for granted and even accredited them to other gods. And that is the ugliness of idolatry. We take breath, strength, money, time, family, and every other good gift from God, and then we use those gifts to pursue life apart from him. We enjoy the husband's provision while giving our affection to rival lovers. Israel's political alliances are another form of idolatry. She flutters between Egypt and Assyria like a foolish dove, hoping that foreign powers are going to provide her with the security that she refuses to seek from God. But those false lovers are never safe. They flatter her for a season and then demand payment and eventually become her taskmasters. And this connects directly to yesterday because Hezekiah reopened the temple and he restored the sacrifices and he called the people to Passover, and those were genuine reforms. But Hosea warns that the temple doors and the multiplied sacrifices can't substitute for faithful hearts. The Lord desires covenant loyalty and faithfulness and the knowledge of God over sacrifices, not just worship to conceal their rebellion. At the same time, Hosea shows that divine discipline is an act of God's covenant love. God doesn't watch his bride destroy herself and then look on and do nothing and call that some sort of compassion. He blocks her path. He removes the corrupted gifts and he allows the false refuges to collapse underneath him. And then he brings her into the wilderness, and what appeared to be abandonment actually becomes renewed courtship and new exodus. The valley of trouble becomes a door of hope. Judgment exposes adultery, but covenant mercy begins the restoration. And in all of that, Hosea 1-7 points us profoundly to Jesus Christ as the faithful bridegroom, the promised Davidic king, and the redeemer of the unfaithful people. Hosea purchases the adulterous woman after her betrayal, in the same way Christ purchased his bride at infinitely greater cost. Israel is the adulterous bride, but Christ is the perfectly faithful husband. His love is holy enough to confront sin and yet costly enough to bear the judgment that his unfaithful bride deserves. Even the names of Hosea's children also find their gracious reversal through him. Those called not my people became the people of God. Those who had not received compassion are going to receive compassion. Paul and Peter later use Hosea's language for the covenant people that God gathers through the gospel. And then finally, Hosea promises that Judah and Israel will be united back together again with one leader, and they will all seek David their king. Well, that king is obviously Jesus Christ. The divided kingdom can't reunite itself on its own, but the Son of David gathers the scattered sheep into one flock under one shepherd again. And that will only happen when Christ comes. In him, the unfaithful are forgiven, the estranged are brought home, the divided are gathered, and the bride is betrothed to her Lord forever. So as you read Hosea 1-7 today, notice that Israel's deepest crisis is not Assyria, but adultery against the Lord that she's supposed to love with faithfulness. She takes God's gifts and credits the false gods and runs towards foreign lovers for protection. Tomorrow, Hosea is going to show us that Israel has sown the wind and will reap the whirlwind. And yet the faithful Lord will ask, "How can I give you up?" and promise to heal their apostasy, love them freely, and ransom them from death. But with that, read your Bible carefully, devotionally, and joyfully, and may the Lord use his word to sanctify you completely, and we will continue our journey tomorrow. God bless you.